on 531 PI.
It is 8:42. This is Pacific Mornings. Now, the Green Party has unveiled its alternative budget, outlining an ambitious plan to expand public services and tackle inequality through new taxes and increased government spending. Now, key proposals include free GP visits, dental care and childcare, alongside an income guarantee for those out of work or studying. Now, to fund these initiatives, Greens propose a suite of tax reforms targeting wealth, high incomes and corporations, as well as changes to property and environmental levies. The plan also invests in climate resilience, including public transport and emissions reforms. Joining me to discuss this vision is Green MP Teanau Tuiono. Kia ora, welcome in.
Kia ora, good to be here.
Look, we just had a very sobering report come out by UNICEF, which ultimately shows that we rank poorly when it comes to child well-being, fourth lowest. A budget like this, a progressive one, would fix said issues, wouldn't it?
Well, it would definitely put the country on a better path. We know, like many of us who've been parents, how expensive it is to get your kids into early childhood education. So making sure that is free would be a good thing, along with free GP visits as well. With this budget, we really have been thinking about people on the planet, what we can do to really look after people. And in order to do all this, we need to make sure that we have a progressive tax system. We don't. There are 311 of the richest families in this country have more wealth than 2.5 million of the poorest people in this country as well. It's about time that we sorted that out.
Yeah, indeed. Look, I'm playing devil's advocate here, and so this is going to be some neoliberal questioning, ironically. But isn't this budget, some would argue, a return to big government, high taxes, punishing success and discouraging, say, private enterprise at exactly the time we need to be focused on economic growth and innovation?
Well, here's the thing with not taxing wealth, right? Most of that wealth that has been accumulated by the richest people in our country, they don't work for it. It's just money that is because they actually own stuff as well. So our progressive tax system is not targeting specifically those people that are actually doing work. We need to actually tax wealth. So if you look at the OECD, we are the only country within the OECD, and the OECD is that's that group of countries that we like to compare ourselves with, the kind of like your Frances, your Germanys, your Japans. We are the only country that doesn't have a wealth tax, a capital gains tax, or a stamp duty. And so this would bring us in line with that. And so I think it's really important that we sort that out.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I suppose, again, how would you argue against being able to justify increasing debt to, say, over 53% of GDP?
Well, some of the taxes that we're talking about won't impact ordinary people. So, for example, introducing a private jet tax of $5,000 per passenger arriving and departing from Aotearoa, New Zealand, that is not going to impact your average South Auckland family because they don't own private jets. And so there are many different ways that we can to make sure that we sort out the tax system as well, including. And this is what we think we should be doing, is raising the company's tax rate to 33%. So ensure that large corporations tax fairly as well, and making sure that we put in wealth tax and a wealth tax on assets. A wealth tax is something that we went into the last election with, and it's something that we're continuing to look at in order to fund these things. But we need to do that because the other side of it is it's really expensive to be poor. If you don't pay for your teeth now, you're going to be paying for more rotten teeth further down the track. So making sure that we can get people to get that dental care quickly, speedily, and in a non-expensive way is really incredibly important. If we want people to be work in the best ways possible, you need to support them to be able to look after their children. Hence, making sure that early childhood education is free. There are things that we can do. There are some things that we need to do, and this is what our vision is about.
Yeah. Look, is this budget more about ideology than practical governance? And the reason I ask that is because we saw the coalition come out and talk big smoke about it yesterday, labelled it as Marxist, left-wing Trumpism. What do you say to fight back against that kind of rhetoric?
Well, this is a government that actually can't balance its books. Last week, they gutted pay equity claims, and you had the ACT Party going down on the tiles saying how great it was that they'd actually found the money to fix Nicola Willis's budget. They can't add it, they can't add. And so the people that are going to be paying for this budget are low paid women workers who have had their pay equity claims gutted. So the coalition government could go on and on and on, and they are about how they are great with the economy. But here we have them taking money from the poorest workers to pay for their budget. There are some things that we know about this budget that's already coming down that we've heard for some of their pre-budget announcements. 12 billion including for military spending. Nicola Willis says that there's no lollies in the lolly jar. Well, probably because Judith Collins got a lot of those lollies, and so did David Seymour.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Look, again, singing. It sounds as if I'm singing from a National Party song sheet. But won't a wealth tax drive investment and talent out of New Zealand?
Well, it doesn't do that to the other OECD countries, and that's the point. You have we are the only country within the OECD which doesn't have a wealth tax or a capital gains tax or a stamp duty. So a lot of our wealth is locked up in accumulated assets, over speculated houses, all of that kind of thing as well. So we do need to actually even it out. And these things cost. And I think that we should be honest about what those things cost, and we have been. And there are certain things, hopefully, that everybody could agree on, right? A private jet tax. How is that going to impact the average New Zealander? How is that going to impact the average person in South Auckland? Well, it isn't. So this is something that I think all political parties could do, but they probably won't, because the people that come to this country on private jets are the sort of people that bankroll the other political parties.
Yeah, certainly. Look, again, how do you respond to critics who call this budget economically reckless? And with that in mind, will your tax policies kill business confidence and job growth?
No, I don't think so. I think what it will do is put us on an even par with the rest of the OECD. It'll make us because people will like to come to this country if they can make sure that public services are looked after. And so earlier this morning, we had an event hosted with the CTU around the pay equity claims. And there was one person who spoke about how her daughter is doing a similar job in Australia, gets paid more money in Australia. So I'm hearing more and more that people are thinking about, well, let's just go somewhere else. What do they have in Australia? Well, they have a better tax system. They have a more progressive tax system. So these are the things that we actually need to do to actually be able to afford to have the quality of public services that we expect in a country like New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's enough neoliberal question lining. Let's focus on the positives. Like I highlighted in the intro, you've got free GP visits, dental care, childcare, alongside income guarantee. It is hard for the average Kiwi, argue against something like that, correct? What's your pitch to our Pacific voters, though?
Well, my pitch to our Pacific voters is that we can have that there is enough wealth in this country to feed everyone, to make sure that everyone has a warm home, be able to put food on the table and to pay their rent. But it requires the richest to pay their fair share. We have 311 of the richest families in Aotearoa, New Zealand, who have more wealth than the poorest 2.5 million New Zealanders. That is unsustainable and unfair. They should be paying their fair share. And as I talked about earlier, like with the private jet tax, people that come in with the private jet tax, we can actually tax them as well. If they can fly here on their own private jet, they can afford to pay those taxes as well. We've got to get these tax settings right. What this government is focused on all their mates, all their rich mates, in particular their landlord mates. I mean, what we need to be focusing on is everybody.
A final question for you, and again, this is just me indulging my political nerdiness, so keen to get a pulse check from yourself on this. Will we ever free ourselves from the shackles of neoliberal ideology. And the reason I ask that is I heard Chris Hipkins' pre-budget speech on behalf of Labour earlier this week. It sounded like, frankly, national light. Will we ever be able to free ourselves of it?
Free ourselves from the shackles of neoliberalism. I like where you're going with that. I think we should. Neoliberalism hasn't worked. There are things that we should be doing to make sure that everybody's taken care of, and that is making sure that the richest in this country pay their fair share. These people should not be paying the effective tax rate, less of the effective tax rate of, say, like a nurse or a teacher. It's about time that they did their part. That's my feeling. And I think that would push back against neoliberalism. And it is, I think, something that all New Zealanders would support. Neoliberalism hasn't worked, and now we need to do much better.
Certainly. Thank you very much for your time, as always. I appreciate it. And very ambitious budget, I thought, by the Greens. But alas, we need some vision like that.
Thank you.
You have a good rest of your day. That is Green MP Teanau Tuiono. You're listening to Pacific Mornings on